Senator Jim Runstead with us from Michigan's 15th District. Senator, welcome back to Oakland County Megacast.
Thank you. I am always happy to be back.
So how are you? How's your team been?
Good. They are still dealing with a lot of unemployment issues. It tends to be consuming all of the time. The office has every spare minute. They're still trying to process through the unemployment claims. And there's just heartbreaking stories that they continue to tell me of people who have, for all this length of time, are not getting their checks. So that tends to be a real issue. But we've had some good victories that were really a joy to see occur before a session ended. And one of them was getting out of committee the nursing home videotaping bill, as you just mentioned. So many of these seniors still cannot see their loved ones. They don't have that opportunity. And this bill that came out of Health Policy Committee says that the nursing homes have to permit the family to allow a camera to be put in that would be put in by the family that the resident wants in order to communicate with their loved ones and also to ensure that they're not getting abused. And I've indicated and talked about this in committee, how many hundreds of videos you can watch online of seniors in nursing homes who have been horrifically abused. I was trying to get to the end of them. I was scrolling through, and it was hundreds and hundreds. I couldn't get to the end. And it's horrifying. And these are either in the 5 states that permit the videos to be utilized, where the video comes from, or families are putting in what's called an illegal video. It's a hidden video. The problem with the hidden video is even if they capture horrific, violent abuse, is in most cases it's not permitted in a court of law because it was an illegal tape. In the 5 states that allow the videos, those that capture this abuse can be used in the court of law. So Michigan does not require the nursing homes to allow the cameras to go in, and very, very few in the state of Michigan will permit a camera to go in. So a isolated senior alone in a room that could be horrifically abused is not permitted in most cases to have a videotape. So that's what this bill will do. If there's another resident in the room, they'd have to get permission from that individual. There's a lot of privacy language that we're putting in there. So it's going to be a very, very good bill, a model bill that I expect will be passed off the floor of the Senate when we get back, and then over to the House. I believe it will be passed there, and I also believe that the governor will sign it.
And it gives these families some peace of mind also that their loved ones are being protected. They have the ability to protect their loved ones, and it gives them a sense of security as well, because yes, they're in these facilities and they're getting hopefully the care that they need for whatever medical issues they may be facing, but they don't really know. And if they're not able, especially in these times, to visit and see and physically know that their loved one is okay, this gives them that extra ability. So that's still in the process. We'll keep up on that and make sure that we continue to update our audience on what's going on with that bill. There's also another bill that recently went through the Michigan Senate Bill 956, passed 24-13, that would prohibit COVID-19 positive patients from being placed in nursing homes. To your knowledge, what would that bill do to solve the issues that have been associated with putting COVID-19 patients in nursing home facilities?
Well, the bill would require that all COVID nursing home patients be put in a separate unit, a unit that's either underutilized or has been closed. This is what Florida did in the majority of its cases, is they required that a individual who was transitioning from a hospital who may still have had COVID or was transferred to the facility that had COVID had to go into a separate unit that was just for COVID nursing home patients. Then you have an isolation of the issue all in one unit. What Michigan did is they said they're going to have regional hubs where if you have a census of under 80 individuals, 80% of your capacity, I'm sorry, that you can set up a regional hub, but the regional hub can take in the healthy with the unhealthy, and they had rules that simply made no sense. I mean, if you have a ventilation system that is for the whole unit, it doesn't make any difference if you build a wall between one hub or one unit and another, because you're still going to spread the disease. So hospitals have separate ventilation units. The nursing homes don't. And what Florida did resulted in a vastly better outcome. They have approximately 150,000 patients. They've 10 million population. We have about a 10 million population. They have 150,000 nursing home patients. We have about 38,000, but we had more deaths than they did. So they have 4 times as many population, and the numbers are changing constantly. But the last I looked, we had over 2,000, and they had around 1,800. So their policy made a whole lot more sense, and that's what our bill that we've passed out of the Senate is going to require the state to do, is set up a separate unit so that the COVID positive patients are not put in with the non-COVID patients.
And part of that's also brought up, that issue is also brought up a separate issue of visitation, because with COVID-19 patients in these facilities, you don't want people visiting the COVID-19 patients because they're potentially going to pass the disease on, and then it gets outside of the facility potentially. And with that also, you're not going to be visiting the nursing home patients because they're in a similar facility. Have you been working on anything coming up thus far that would allow people to be able to go into these nursing homes and visit their loved ones despite these issues that are at hand?
Well, I think that if we first off separated the COVID patients from the non-COVID patients, we wouldn't have this terrible spreading that we've been having. So this bill that we passed is going to, I think, solve that problem. It will no longer be an issue when we've separated those two out. Then the patients who have not had the exposure to COVID, if there's a safe way of having a visitor come in and see them, we should explore that. Obviously, it has to be done safely. But in the meantime, I really would like to get as fast as possible this law passed so that the family members can at least communicate electronically with their loved ones. They literally can zoom in the loved one and see what kind of medication that the individual's taken. I've had people contact me recently with loved ones in a nursing home and said that the stories are just beyond heartbreaking of abuse, of neglect in the nursing home. And one lady said her father dropped the phone because he was too weak to hold it. And she went to the nursing home. They wouldn't let her in. She started breaking the door down with her body. They finally let her in. She said, "I am going to see my dad." She went in. His teeth were all broke out because he'd fallen out of bed twice. He was in severe pain. They were giving him like an aspirin for excruciating pain that he was under, and he was supposed to have a real strong painkiller. She promised him he would never undergo this kind of thing. He died the next morning. And that's the kind of stories that I've been hearing coming out of the nursing homes. So we've got to get the camera protection put in there. And then if we could separate the COVID from the non-COVID and then safely get the visitors in, these are all things that we have to get done right away.
Jim Runstead with us from Michigan's 15th District. He is one of our state senators in the local area with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Senator Runstead, you recently introduced a resolution which would allow electronic data to be exempt from search and seizure without a warrant. Can you explain a little bit about what is in that resolution?
Yes, I would say this is a very, very big victory for the people of the state of Michigan. And I have put that in over the last 2 sessions, so for the last 4 years. And it passed unanimously out of the House 4 years ago. And then 2 years ago, it passed with 1 no vote out of the House. It came to the Senate, never got through the Senate. So now it has, I put it in the Senate. It got through the Senate committee unanimous, through the Senate unanimous, went to the House, went through the House unanimous. So it is going to be on the ballot in November. So it's very exciting. And what it does is it says that there is a warrant required to access a person's electronic data and communications. So everybody's cell phone, their computers, all of these things, law enforcement cannot go in and access without having a warrant. And this was passed in Missouri in 2014 with 75% a vote of the people. And a number of years ago, it was passed in New Hampshire with 82% vote of the people. I believe it'll pay us in similar numbers, maybe higher here in the state of Michigan, because there's too many examples that I have read about of state agencies and even federal agencies working with state agencies that have been violating the Constitution and just go snooping through our personal information on our electronic devices. Under the Constitution, they're not permitted to do that on our property and our personal effects. But since it doesn't say electronic, there's a lot of departments who have been looking at that as permissible to be able to go in and start snooping around without a warrant. So I really believe this is going to make a major, major difference here in the state of Michigan to make sure that this is not occurring.
Senator Jim Runstead from Michigan's 15th District State Senator with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. This resolution would forbid use of electronic data without a warrant in this case. And would that include facial recognition software as well, or is that not included in this because it's not personal data? And what are your thoughts on using facial recognition software as a means to bring people in for alleged criminal activity?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, if they were getting that information illegally per this resolution, that would be a legal problem for them in terms of criminal illegality. What's currently happening with facial recognition is they have snapshots either from a store that had an individual break in, something along those lines, and then they use that to sort their database of information through the criminal records and see if they can make a match. So they're taking either the information that was from the scene or that they currently have on their database, and they're doing a match, seeing if they could do a match. There was a recent case of an individual who was arrested based upon the facial recognition, and they got it wrong. The guy had an alibi and was obviously not the perpetrator. And in that case, the police department certainly muffed things up, because the first thing they should have done is said, okay, the fact that we have a match on this doesn't really mean anything if there's exculpatory evidence, such as does the individual have a alibi? Well, they never even asked him about his alibi. So it's troublesome in terms of its ability to identify certain groups of people. So I think it's something we have to be very cautious about. But apparently they're making these matches based upon previous arrest records. That's what I understand. I'm going to have to investigate this further, because this gentleman, the article I read, said did not have arrest records. So how did they make that match? So there's something I'm going to have to explore more deeply. I'm on the Judiciary Committee, and I'm sure we'll be asking some questions.
So Senator Runstead, on that note, just a follow-up question: do you believe at this juncture that facial recognition software and technology is reliable enough for law enforcement agencies to be using in apprehending alleged criminals?
Well, this raises the question right now whether their database is a workable solution, because what they told us is this is not real-time facial recognition where they're tracking people walking around the city. They said what it is if there's a crime committed and say the video camera at, say, a party store captured an image, that they could match that image with their current database of individuals who've been previously arrested. So they have those faces, and that's all that this could be used for. But if that's the case, how did they go in and arrest an individual who, at least the article said, did not have a arrest record? So I've got to get to the bottom of this and find out, are we getting a lot of smoke blown at us, and we need to, eliminate any possibility of this program? These are things we're going to be exploring. I'll be talking to the chair of the committee and see what we can put together in terms of an investigation.
State Senator Jim Runstead from Michigan's 15th District with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Senator, just another couple minutes before we let you go. Anything else you'd like to touch on before we say goodbye today?
I just want to say how proud I am of my colleagues in the legislature for 110 members and 38 of the House and 38 members of the Senate to vote unanimously to protect the personal electronic data and communications of the citizens of the state of Michigan. Is one of the most exciting things that it is the most exciting thing that has happened since I have been in the Senate in terms of bipartisan. Let's get this done for the people of the state of Michigan. And I'm very excited that people are going to have an opportunity in November to pass this.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today, Senator Jim Runstead.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure. Our state senator from Michigan's 15th District with us on the program.